established a quorum. All county court members are present. And we will wait till 10:01, which is just in a few seconds, to open the public hearing for Waste Management's conditional use permit. So yeah, we could do that. It's not on the agenda, but let's do that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner. I don't know how it got out there, but we need to have it. Okay, it is 10:01. And we will be holding a public hearing on modifications of conditions of approval for a conditional use permit issued to Waste Management Disposal Services for a solid waste landfill known as Columbia Ridge Landfill and Recycling Center in the exclusive farm use zone. The public hearing to consider an application for Waste Management Disposal Services of Oregon for the updated modification of an existing conditional use permit is called to order. The county court would like to hear from the public on this issue during this hearing. The public hearing is your opportunity to comment on proposal before the county court makes a decision. We want to hear what you have to say, and we want to give you a chance to be heard and hear your point of view. If you wish to comment on the hearing item, you will have an opportunity to do so. All persons commenting must be recognized by the judge. Please speak clearly and slowly and state your name and city for the record. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. At this time, I will ask the members of the county court if they have a conflict of interest. Any conflicts of interest? I do not either. No conflicts of interest have been declared. At this time, we will ask Stephanie Case, City of Boardman planning staff, to present the staff report for this application, and then we will go into public testimony.
Good morning, commissioners. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not sure on the screen how to turn my video on, so I guess you're just going to see the City of Boardman today. I will go ahead and get started on the staff report in your packet today in front of you. Hopefully you all had a copy of the proposed findings of fact and conclusions of law, as well as the findings and staff report that were approved and signed by the Planning Commission, forwarded to you with a do adopt and recommendation for approval. And some modified conditions of approval were included, an updated site plan, and then it looks as though we've also included an email from Les Ruark regarding land use process. That was issued to Waste Management Disposal Services for a solid waste landfill. So the original conditional use permit dates back to about 1987, at which time the county has reviewed, renewed, or modified the permit. And starting in 1994, there were scheduled review periods every 5 years. This year, 2025, lands as one of those scheduled reviews. Throughout this year, the applicant has been coordinating with county staff to clearly define the conditions of the permit, and the intent of this would be to bifurcate the conditions in 2 distinct documents. One of them would be the document that you have in front of you today, as we proposed as the conditions of approval, and the other one would clearly outline any host fee agreement and road use agreement. Once those are adopted, the intent would be that this conditional use permit would be a standalone document that is approved, reviewed, or altered as appropriate by the Planning Commission, as outlined in Article 7 of the Gillum County Zoning and Land Development Ordinance. So in the staff report, I provided some history going all the way back to the initial approval and some of the updates that have happened since then, and then outlined the criteria that are applicable in the development ordinance for the review of this, which include Article 7 and Article 11. I also included the portions about solid waste disposal facility and the rail facility. So both of them are subject to that review. The only real operational change that the applicant has proposed, and it really isn't an operational change, but the language change that they've proposed is the condition that talks about the screening and buffer area. The way it was written before, it was pretty lengthy and complicated, and they've just asked that there's a proposed modification in that language, although they would still maintain that 150-foot buffer requirement. The biggest part of this would be the bifurcation of the two separate decision documents, leaving the conditions directly related to land use approval with this, and then the other conditions in the county's host fee agreement that would be under the county court's purview specifically. It is recommended that the decision is made today, and then that would modify past practice of the county court having the review of authority of the conditional use permit, reverting it back to Planning Commission where it would belong, and leaving the county court as the appeal body for the conditional use permit, specifically in the case of a local appeal. That would conclude the portion of the staff report. The only other thing I would refer you to are the conditions of approval that are in front of you. Specifically at the end, there were some updates that happened after last week's Planning Commission meeting. So you did receive two very similar documents, but the most recent one had some updates, specifically under portion number 8, where it says landfill operations and practices. The Planning Commission asked that the applicant clean up some language regarding some of their history, specifically around their gas to energy facility, and then the renewable natural gas and carbon sequestration facility. The language in those wasn't real clear as to how different those approvals were, so they did amend that after the Planning Commission hearing at the Planning Commission's recommendation. The public comment that was received was from Les Ruark, and he essentially echoed that he asks that the Planning Commission be the approval body for the conditional use permit, reserving the county court as the local appellant body, and LUBA, of course, for any appeal past that. The way that it currently is, LUBA would be the only option for appeal. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have of me, and looking forward to a decision.
Okay, thank you very much, Stephanie. I just wanted to clarify with you, Stephanie, we do not have any action on the agenda today. So if we need to formally bifurcate the two and in the form of a court order, we can do that in December is what I was planning to do.
Right, yes, that is correct. My apologies. Anya and I had spoken about that, and we decided that it would be best to go through the hearings process and then do that order in December for the actual decision.
Okay,
correct.
Sounds great. All right. Any other questions, commissioners, from her before we go into public testimony? Okay. Thank you, Brooklyn. We're getting the sign-up sheet.
Oh, thank you.
There's nothing for the conditional use permit. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I'll give anyone the opportunity to comment if they so choose, if you didn't sign up. And is there anyone virtually who would like to comment on the conditional use application? Okay. So we have two options. We can continue, excuse me. Oh. Jay Harlan. Okay. Mr. Harlan, would you like to speak and provide testimony on the conditional use application?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. I just wanted to.
Well, I'm going to stop you for just a moment. We do need your name.
Yes. Jay Harlan, CSA Planning, offices at 4497 Brown Ridge in Medford. We're the agents for waste management. So I just wanted to let the county court know that I think Stephanie did a good job explaining what's going on here. And a lot of this is really like cleaning it up and making some long history easier to understand. And I just want to say, I thought the planning commission, we worked with staff and did a bunch of cleanup, and excellent job because they looked at it and said, we think you can clean it up a little more, and had some very specific suggestions. And I just thought it was really good planning commission work on their part. So the draft that is before you tonight or this morning here reflects their direction, and I think it was good direction. So with that, we would request you approve it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your input. Thank you for your help. We have two options. We can leave the hearing open. If we believe we've concluded all public comment, we can close the hearing. Do we have any input of the commissioners on this?
Are we could leave it open and then close it at another date, or?
Yes, Stephanie, could we leave it, is there a need to leave it open? Want to make sure people have an opportunity to comment, and then we could conclude it at the December 3rd meeting, or we can conclude it at this meeting. Do you have a recommendation?
Yeah, I think the recommendation would be, we've heard public testimony. So I think the recommendation today would be to close the public hearing and then make that decision at the next meeting and have an order prepared. So okay. We haven't specifically received any testimony that would be in opposition. So that would be staff's recommendation.
Okay. Are you comfortable with that? Good with that. Okay. As public testimony has been concluded, this public hearing on the waste management conditional use permit is now closed to additional comment. That concludes the public hearing. Thank you everyone who made comment, and the Planning Commission for their work on this. Very important to Jerome County. Thank you. And thank you, Stephanie, for all your work.
Thank you. I'll talk to you guys on December 3rd.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we are 3.0, additions or revisions to the agenda. So, do we have any additions or revisions? I do want to read the update for the port first off.
And I just wanted to have a discussion at the end of it regarding the Times Journal and really nonprofiting, what the guidelines should be for funding them going forward.
Okay, so 7.6, we will add Kelly nonprofit Times Journal request for parameters around those entities that can utilize that service. Okay, great. All right. Did you have anything to add?
No.
Okay. I wanted, before we do any other business, because this is going to conclude a matter that's been on the docket for a couple of meetings. Monday, late afternoon, we received an email from Amy John from the Secretary of State's office, and it says, Judge Patno, please note the Port of Arlington has filed the audit report for the fiscal year ending 6/3/2022 as per their planned schedule and is no longer 3 years delinquent. The audit report for the year ending 6/30/25 is due by December 31st, 2025. If the board does not submit the audit report for fiscal year 2023 prior to that date, the port will again be 3 years delinquent and may be again subject to dissolution proceedings. My records indicate the board's plan is to file the report for fiscal year 2023 no later than January 31st, 2026. So upon receiving this email, I reached out to our legal counsel to ensure that he concurred with this. And so Brooklyn sent an email on our behalf because we did the research. So the email that Amy John sent indicates the Port of Arlington has completed the files, the file for the 2022 audit. Gillum County Legal Counsel Jeremy Green has been contacted, and he confirmed that since the Port of Arlington is not 3 years delinquent at this point, dissolution proceedings may be ceased. Should the port find themselves 3 years delinquent again if they fail to file their 23 audit by December 31st, 2025, as Amy John indicated, a new process may commence. Our hope is that the port finds a way to complete the 2023 audit by the December 31st, 25 deadline to remain in compliance. So we'll take up the matter of the board order, which on 7.1. But I did want to make sure everyone understood where we are with that. Okay, next on the agenda. We have public comment. Individuals wishing to address the county court may do so at this time and at other times throughout the meeting. Speakers are asked to raise their hand, be recognized by the chair, give their name and city, and limit comments to 3 minutes. First off, I wanted to, Paul Wilson, Waste Management, and also you're introducing EP Manager.
Yeah.
Okay, come on up. Sorry, there's another chair over there we didn't put to that. I'd like to.
We'll take a minute.
Okay.
Paul Wilson with Waste Management, a district manager at the Columbia landfill. And I know on several of my last reports, I keep saying we're in search of an EP manager. I'm happy to be here today to introduce Mr. Greg Pincelli, who is our new EP manager. So going forward, we'll make sure you have his information.
Good.
And he'll be corresponding with, working with us closely, and make sure we're all doing it right.
Great.
So
Good.
any questions for him or?
You?
All right.
Thank you. Thanks for
Thank you.
taking the time to come today.
Sure.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see, we have a department report. We have juvenile department update. Come on up, Phoebe.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you, guys.
Yes.
Um,
Amy Nation.
oh, sorry. Amy Nation, Gillum County Juvenile and Prevention Services Director. Lots going on. Been busy with Norcor. We did interviews last week for a new detention manager. It was screened first by the administration at Norcor, and then it was narrowed down to one applicant. We screened that applicant as the Juvenile Director Oversight Committee. He seems very promising. He's going to come out on the 18th to do a site visit. The directors will all go meet with him, visit with him, show him around Norcor. Just kind of let him get a feel for it. He's from Colorado, so we just want to make sure that it'll be a good fit for him before he relocates from Colorado and comes here. So, so we'll see what happens with that, but it's underway. We have the 4 of us juvenile directors have kind of split off duties right now while we are without a detention manager. We do have Dylan May in the back who's acting as interim with the staff. But for example, I've taken over the food services program. I had to do an 8-hour training for that. There's another 3-hour training I need to complete. I'll meet with Barb today after our oversight committee meeting We have some policies we need to work on for the food services program. There's a site visit happening in March, which my fingers are crossed. I will not have to do that site visit, that we will have a detention manager trained in the food program who will be doing it. But that's kind of been the duties I've taken over. Robbie with Hood River has been working in the back with Dylan on staff training, trying to find some free staff training with our budget constraints around training right now. So Robbie's been doing that. Amber is sitting on the committee that's working on some of the assessments we've had done. And Molly's helping out where needed, but she's done so much for so long that she's kind of taken a step back right now. So that's what's going on at Norpor. I had my COJAC, which is the Central Eastern Oregon Juvenile Justice Committee meeting 2 weeks ago, I believe. We meet quarterly. It's the directors in the Eastern Central side of the state. We actually met at McLaren, kind of looked around McLaren, we met the new, McLaren just got a new, or OYA just got a new director. So he was at our meeting. We met with him. It was time to re-elect board members. I was elected as secretary of the board, so I'll be doing those duties for the COJAC committee. Our summer work program is wrapping up. I still have a couple little things to do with figuring out, end of the summer budget, but we had really good participation this year. We had some new businesses join in, which was really exciting, opened up a few more opportunities for our kids to be able to work. We had about 6 businesses in Arlington, about 13 in Condon, and between all of those businesses, we employed about 34 kids. So it was a really good program. And actually with the newsletter, because I had added this into our county newsletter, I actually had one parent already reach out to me wanting to know when to sign her child up. So I let her know I don't start that till April, but that I would put her down on the list and get back in touch with her. So yeah, it's been a successful program. I went to the Arlington school, I think probably end of September, beginning of October, met with the new superintendent, talked with him about Girls Circle and Boys Council, which is the prevention programs I've done in the schools. He's in full support of it continuing. And so I'll be working with Sammy to get that up and going. We've talked, we'll probably start with a boys group in January is what we're thinking. And then we'll do a girls group after that. And I need to connect with the Condon School. Mrs. Hams had expressed an interest in bringing it back to the Condon School the end of last year. We just had no kids who participated. So she said we would reconnect this year and see about starting a program here in Condon as well. We had the Children's Fair in the end of August. We had about 9 businesses who participated. We had the Oregon Fish and Wildlife brought their van with the BB guns, which is always a hit with the kids. And we had some other, we had from Salem, the State Marine Board came. So we had people from far and wide that came, set up tables with activities for the kids. There was bubbles and toys and books and coloring and just different activities for the kids. So the kids really seemed to enjoy that. So that was a success. I'll be working on probably starting this month. I guess we're in November. I do the Christmas giving tree at the bank, and then Carrie Cowan does it in Arlington at the bank. So I always coordinate with Carrie because sometimes I get applications for Arlington, and then Carrie takes them and makes sure the kids get covered in Arlington, and I take care of Condon. So I'll be working on that here pretty soon. This year, beginning of this year, I might have mentioned this at the last staff meeting, I can't remember, but it was time to redo my grants for the new biennium. So I have my OIC grant, which is the Oregon Youth Conservation, and we use that to pay our kids who work at the childcare on each end of the county. And so that was a $30,000 grant for the biennium, $15,000 a year, and that is done, and we've been approved for that grant.
Will we spend all of that?
Possibly, because I do have, I was concerned we may not, but I do have some kids who are working year round. So we may end up using a good amount of that. And then I rewrote my juvenile crime prevention grant this year to fund the summer work program. So that grant, they like to see it for risk prevention, either high-risk kids or to try to keep kids out of trouble. I saw our kids working as a very proactive things to keep our kids out of trouble. So it was approved. That is a $75,000 grant for the biennium. I've already spent the first half of it with the summer program. So I don't have the number.
So that will save Gillum County.
It will save Gillum
So we're
County.
funding that part,
Correct.
general fund.
Correct. Yep. I did have to use a little bit. I have a line item, the WEX work experience program.
Yes.
So I had to use a little bit of it because what I tried to do is keep half of the JCP grant for this biennium
Yes.
and then the other half for the next summer. So so I used that
Even if
for
it's some savings.
it's like a $35,000 savings that came out of the grant.
Sure.
So that was approved and they haven't opened it up. They're a little bit behind with the state for me to submit the reimbursement request. I have all the documentation ready. I'm just waiting for the portal to open up for me to be able to submit the request, but we will get that money back. So yeah, so that was good news on both of those grants. Oh, and then there's two sides of the grant. The $75,000 is prevention. So that's where we try to keep youth from getting into trouble or escalating into more trouble. And then the other side of it, they call basic, and that is a little more lenient. We only get $5,308 for the 2 years for that. And that covers my wages, not clearly all of my wages, but it goes towards my wages. So they have the Youth Development Oregon, they're who that grant is through under the Oregon Department of Education. We were told at our COJAC meeting that they've been asked to do an exercise for a budget reduction. The juvenile directors did ask them if that would impact the amount of the grant we have. They're hoping not. They couldn't give us super definitive answers, but what they're hoping is obviously that they won't have to, it's just an exercise right now. They're hoping legislation won't make them actually cut the budget. But if they should have to cut it, some counties don't always use all of their grant money. So if they should have to cut it, what they're hoping is the counties that don't use it can go to the counties who need it. So hopefully we won't see any reduction in that $75,000 this biennium, but it could potentially happen. We've just been given a heads up on that.
All right.
And then I've just attended various other meetings. I'm on the state directors, all the directors in the state are on the state OJDDA. So we met virtually, we meet monthly. So I think we have another meeting next week. So we met in October, talking about the revocation process. What that is when a youth goes to McLaren, an OIA, say they're on parole, an OIA revokes the kiddo's parole, a juvenile director has to sit in the hearing. And so there was some language like we didn't have standardized papers because we don't, I've done one the whole time I've been here. And there wasn't like, what are we supposed to do? And so the Directors Association is working with OIA, like we need standard language, standard papers. What are the expectations when we have to attend one of these hearings? So we talked about that. We're revising the bylaws, which is always a big undertaking. OIA was there to give us an update. So yeah, I think that's.
I have one question.
Sure.
On the detention manager applications, was it, you said you had 4 originally or something, was that it?
I'd have to ask Nicole for sure. I think we had at least 3. So we had decided, we had talked about how long to keep it open. Our fear was last time we had kept it open too long and some of the people who applied ended up, yeah. So once we had 3 qualified applicants, we decided to go ahead and move forward with interviews.
I just wondered, is there anything that they talked about to maybe try to draw more applicants?
And
before
we
then?
did talk about when, just as the oversight committee on, can we reach out further? You know, where did Nicole reach out last time we did interviews versus this time? We all pushed it out. Like I emailed the Directors Association, the job application, the link to the website, asked them to share with all their community partners and anybody they think may be interested. We did the same thing with the Central Eastern Oregon. So we tried to push it out a little bit further this time, but I think we were just kind of excited. We had 3 qualified applicants. Yeah. And I mean, the gentleman, his name's Todd, that we interviewed from Colorado, has an extensive background in detention. I want to say, over 20 years. So, he knew all the acronyms. He actually had read a lot of our previous board minutes from Norcor. So, so he was up to date on kind of some of the struggles, for lack of a better word, that we've been having. So I don't feel like he's going to be coming in because it's going to be a big undertaking. I mean, we haven't had consistent leadership on the detention side in a little while, and there's definitely work to be done, but we've prepared him for that, and he's very excited for come in and try something new. He's got friends and family in Oregon, so he's wanting to relocate to Oregon. So, knock on wood, when he comes and does the site visit, it'll be a good fit, but it seems really promising.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Okay, Doug Potter.
Morning. I'm Potter with the Gillum County Weed Department, weed officer. This year we had twice the rain that we normally have, so we struggled to kill weeds, but we were able to get through it. And so the other thing that I would like to discuss is, over the years, we've always done the Historical Society as a donated services. Could we move that into Gillum County so we could actually bill for it? Is that gonna have to go to a vote or something? It's not much, but it's still, I mean, a couple acres to
Yeah.
sterilize and then upkeep during the summer.
We'll talk about solutions there.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah. I sit down with you.
Yeah, that was the only one that we've ever had that really has been donated services, and it's been that way for a long time, so,
Okay. Say it's a couple acres.
yeah. And then usually a couple different times during the year, we gotta go up there, do the broadleaves.
you work on that one?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, okay with
I spent October, quite a bit of it, working on billing, and so far I've billed out about 75,000 in bills, and there's some more to go, but
Is that about normal? Year?
yeah, I would say so. Actually, ODOT used to be a little higher, but we no longer do the freeway, so it's less than what it used to be. It used to be around 50,000 a year or more but I do not miss going down on the freeway. So when they called me and asked me if I'd be disappointed if they could do the freeway, I was like, sure. East was not bad, but when you go west, there's just no room to get off the road, and it's just, I couldn't sleep the night before I went down there and did that road. It's just stressful. We're gonna apply for the county weed grant, and it's about 60,000. And we can probably get Nori with SWCD to help us apply for it. They put out, OWEB puts out like $3.5 million, and 500,000 of that goes towards county programs. I mean, just for their departments. And we've never went after that, but I'm gonna try and see if we can get that to maybe battle some of the holes that we have.
That's good news.
So, and out of the 500,000, there's not very many counties that apply for it, so hopefully we can get that. And the other thing that I need to mention is somewhere along the line, we're gonna have to start replacing equipment. Our truck is 16 years old and our pickup is a 2013 with over 150,000 miles on it. And normally what we've done in the past is we've done outside work with that equipment and we'd like go spray Baker County and some of those other counties, but everybody has their own equipment now, so we can't do the hire like we used to do, so. So I don't know, we're gonna have to figure out some way to replace it because they are getting old.
The two vehicles.
Yeah. And Mike is on his way to Bend today to get his medical certificate so he can fly the drone.
Is that the last thing you see?
Well, actually, no, the only thing he's got left, I've got a list here. He needs a class 3 medical certificate. And then he's got to obtain a FFA aircraft registration number. And I think he went through that before
Oh,
and
yeah.
the money got lost and nothing happened. And finally they sent it back. So
Doug, is that for him or is that for the drone?
that's,
For the drone.
I would say, yeah, for the drone. And he has to get a class 3 because it weighs more than 55 pounds. I think it weighs 88 pounds. So I think he's ready to get going on that. So, and that'll be really nice for the department because we can go spray the stuff that we normally have to do with a backpack.
Yeah. That's great.
And I'm too old to do that anymore.
Mhm.
I was talking to somebody and they said it doesn't matter what age you are. That's when you put a backpack on and start going up and down the hills, it gets pretty old in a hurry. But no, and once he does that, then the one that he was really concerned about was obtaining an aerial pesticide applicator's license, which he did that last week? Yeah. He was worried about it, but he passed it, so. Other than that, I think we're about ready to go with our drone. I talked to ODOT last week and because they've had their budget problems, I was worried about whether or not we were going to be able to continue to spray for them, but we are, so. And then I called BLM and talked to Jared. He could talk to me today because he's not working, but he could talk to me because it was, work related, but we're not going to probably have a contract with them, but we're going to have different things that we can do for them to probably to cover the 16,000 while he works on other avenues for us to get money. And he's really not sure what's going to happen the way things are right now with the government, but
Yes.
he wants to put most of the money on the 30-mile stuff going down into where all the floaters travel down Armstrong and 30-mile where you've got some, I believe you have some projects coming up and they already have the money to do a lot of that spraying. So that'll be another avenue to get some more income coming in. Other than that, any questions?
Oh, thank you for all you're working on.
Yeah. I'll try to get with you for the next.
Okay.
Discuss some of these things.
Yeah.
About the drone.
Yeah.
Fun to see how that all works. And yeah.
Yeah, it's impressive. It's
Mhm.
I've never handled it. Mike has, but when he told me it weighed 88 pounds, it's like, oh my God, how's that fly? And then you put chemical in it.
Yeah.
So
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Doug.
Thank you. Okay, rest of correspondence, a couple pieces of correspondence. Business Oregon letter regarding the event center, just stating that we are in good standing with that grant, $200 and some thousand.
Yeah, it's 277,000.
Yeah, and that portion was gonna be earmarked for a certain thing so that we can close it out event. So that's good. There's an email in the packet regarding Rally Networks and just continuing to keep the conversation going about which homes are gonna have the minimal hookup so that we have some mapping, and they are continuing to work on that so that we know that we just don't lose sight of where we're at with that. And see, I would just, let's just go ahead and take a couple pieces of correspondence off of this before we go into the presentation a little bit out of order. There is a letter from the Port of Arlene regarding the status of their audit, which we have a further update because we know that it's complete now. So that was provided to us earlier.
Yeah, Shannon from Arlington.
Yeah.
We're just wondering what sort of documentation we'll receive from the court concerning the resolution that currently stands, has been signed to dissolve the court. Will we receive a repeal? Will it be amended?
Termination.
It will be a termination.
Yes.
We will receive a repeal.
Yes. It may not be today,
That's fine.
but that we had thought of. We do need to show a pattern of where this ended.
Yes.
And so, yes,
Thank you.
yes. We'll have to reach out to our legal counsel to help us draw that out. Okay, thank you. There is an email from Les Rourke regarding the Port of Arlington dissolution process. It's in the packet. There's a treasurer's report. And I'm gonna stop there and we'll pick up at 4.9 after the presentation for GSI on Willow Creek feasibility studies. Let's go there.
Mind if I do a short introduction?
Yes.
Morning, Herb Winters, District Manager for Gillum SWCD. Brooke, I'm not sure, I was just texting with, will be Matthew Thomas. Or maybe Robin Cook.
Morning.
So I might just give a little bit of background real quick. Just around the feasibility study, the county had invested $11,000 in the feasibility study. The rest of the funding came from Morrow County and from the Oregon Water Resources Department. The total cost of, I think it was $105,000.
What year was that?
23,
Okay.
I think. So I've asked GSI to come today to give this presentation just for informational purposes. It's above our heads at the SWCD as far as how technical it is. And just wanted the county court to have an opportunity to ask questions and learn from them. So that's all. I guess go ahead, Matt or Robin.
Yep. Yeah, I'll be driving this. First of all, can you guys hear us while I'm pulling this up?
Yes.
Wonderful. All right. I just tried sharing my screen, but I got a message saying the host is not allowing sharing for this webinar. Is there a way we could get that, or do you guys have access to the slide deck and could just ask next slide?
Brooklyn, do you have access to your email? Because I asked Nori to send that presentation just in case.
It's up on the website, right? It's also on the agenda.
Or is there a way to change the sharing option for the meeting?
We have a person who's sitting in for a normal person, so we're working on it. Just a moment.
Okay, thank you.
Hold tight for just a second.
Sure.
I just want to change the, because I have the presentation here, so I can share my screen.
screen, their voices will still.
Yeah,
Okay.
you could share and
Do
they could
that.
just ask to advance each slide.
Yeah.
All right. Wonderful. We'll go from here. I do a little bit of use of kind of like the little laser pointer clicker. So I'll try and direct you to kind of point out some things to the attention of folks the best I can, but this will work perfect. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Matt Thomas. I have Robin Cook here in the room with me. I believe we also have Walt Burt online as well. We're with GSI Water Solutions. We're a geologic consulting firm out of Portland. And we're here to present on, as Herb mentioned, the results of a Lower Willow Creek MAR feasibility study that we did over the spring and summer. We gave this presentation to the Morrow County Soil and Water Conservation District Board of Directors plus Herb last night, and we gave the same presentations to the Morrow County Commissioners immediately before this meeting as well. So everyone is getting the exact same information that has had a role in this. The title slide is just a brief presentation meant to summarize this fairly extensive desktop study that we ran over the spring and summer. As Herb mentioned, this was funded by an OWRD, Oregon Water Resource Department feasibility study grant with a 50% match combined from Morrow and Gillum counties. As Herb mentioned, that was about $11,000 from Gillum County. Our study area is primarily in Morrow County, but there would be some benefit to folks in Gillum County along Willow Creek as well. Point of this project was to evaluate and identify any potential fatal flaws to the development and implementation of a managed aquifer recharge project in the Lower Willow Creek Basin. A lot of details that we're not going to cover on this presentation. Just going to try and tell you the key findings and highlights, but there is an extensive report and summary we can share after the meeting. Next slide, please. All right, so a brief overview of the project. Like I said, investigating the use of an MAR system to extend the irrigation season for surface water users in Lower Willow Creek. Our study area is highlighted by the blue line in the figure on the right. We started from the confluence of Ray Creek with Willow Creek there on the kind of bottom end, and we took it all the way up to the confluence with the Columbia. You can see we have the Morrow and Gillum County line highlighted here as well. Now Willow Creek runs effectively dry most years from June through September, with shutoffs from the water master typically coming around by mid-June as far as withdrawal of water for irrigation from Willow Creek. What this means is that many, if not most, water users on Willow Creek in the study area are unable to use their full water right because the creek runs dry, there's not water in it year round. They can't access all the water that they legally do have access to. This results in unrealized economic potential and crop production within the study area. Additionally, from a groundwater resource perspective, in certain key areas of the study area, there are fairly significant groundwater level declines. This has led to the establishment of the Ella Butte Critical Groundwater Area. That's this green outline, as you can see in a slightly thinner line on the figure. And it does stretch a little bit into Gillum County as well. Next slide, please. I want to briefly talk about this MAR term I was throwing around, or Managed Aquifer Recharge. It's a water storage system. The idea is to divert surface water in the winter and spring when demand is low and flow is high. There's excess water that no one is using in the creek. You divert that, you treat it in some form or fashion. That's those little tanks on this diagram. And then you inject it into a nearby well out into the underground aquifer, and you store it in there until summer rolls around, or any dry season you want, when flow is low but demand is quite high for irrigation. You then pump that water that you have stored underground back out of the ground and distribute it to irrigators for use or whatever their permitted water right use for that surface water is. And within the area, GSI does assist a landowner who runs a similar system over in Umatilla County along the Butter Creek drainage. So there is local precedent for a system such as this. Now we'll move on to some findings. Next slide, please. So we started by looking at the water demand, trying to establish some parameters around what would the size of a potential project be here, how much water do we need to store. We did a full detailed inventory of all water rights within the study area, both surface and groundwater. We found that the absolute upper limit we'd be looking at, it's unrealistic, we'll get to that, but the amount to make all surface water users in the entire study area whole year round would be about 7,000 acre feet. That's a lot of water. So we had discussions with landowners in the area to try and pare that down to a more realistic target from a practicality and availability perspective. And what we settled on after discussing, having meetings with Herb and Kevin over at Morrow County, as well as landowners within the area, is a flow target for now, or a storage target for now, of about 1,100 acre feet. That's about how much it would take for surface water users downstream of the Willow Creek monocline. That's an important boundary, more on that in the next slide. From about June 15, or sorry, to be able to irrigate for 8 hours per day from about June 15th through August 31st. From talking with folks in the area, it sounds like that could translate to potentially another alfalfa cutting, for instance. All right, so we're on to the geology slide. This figure on the right here is a surface geologic map of the study area. That same study area polygon is outlined here, as well as the Morrow and Gillum County line. The target aquifer that we would be looking at for storage would be the Columbia River basalts. Very quick geology lesson. Columbia River basalts were laid down as successive lava flows over a period of about 10 million years. At the boundary between those lava flows, the rock is actually quite fractured and broken. So you have these boundaries in between the flows where there's actually quite a lot of water. When folks are drilling wells into the basalts and the Columbia River basalts, that's where their water is coming from. And they have been demonstrated over and over again to be able to hold quite a large amount of water in storage as well, depending on local conditions, which we'll get into in future slides. And additionally, the Columbia River basalts, these are the target for nearly all underground water storage projects in Oregon. So in terms of the target storage aquifer, we would not exactly be breaking new ground here. We did through a literature review, looking at well logs in the area, some institutional knowledge from a lot of work we've done in the area as well, and conversations with landowners in the study area. We're able to identify the presence of, we'll call it a groundwater dam called the Willow Creek monocline within the area. I don't know if you can see it. We have it. There's like a light brown line running east to west. Looks like Herb might be getting up to point it out here. Yep, and we have it labeled Willow Creek monocline to the east as well there. That is the groundwater dam that we're looking at. It's a little poorly defined geologically. There hasn't been a lot of study on it. It is most likely some kind of, you can think of it as a fault, a minor inactive fault. This isn't making earthquakes, but it is doing enough to create this kind of groundwater damming effect. So above the dam, that would be let me start by saying groundwater here, we'll demonstrate this in future slides. It flows from south to north towards the Columbia River. So on the south or upstream end of the dam, what we found is there are really no long-term groundwater level declines in the wells that we have highlighted here in the study area. In fact, most of these wells are artesian. They're gushers. If there wasn't a cap on them, they'd be geysers coming out of the ground. A lot of water pressure there. Below the dam, you just move a little bit over that Willow Creek monocline line. There are quite significant groundwater level declines. And a lot of that row of wells immediately north or downstream of the dam, there are groundwater level declines of up to 200 or more feet in some places across the period of record. That stretches back to about the 1960s or 1970s, depending on the well. That's when a lot of those were drilled. Generally, what we think is happening is water is pooling and pressurizing above the dam to the south of it, and very little is making it through to the downstream side. And that's resulting in those excessive groundwater level declines for frankly modest amounts of pumping. What this does suggest is that downstream of the monocline, the aquifer is the exact same as upstream that holds a lot of water. There's just no water in it. What that suggests is there is quite a lot of headroom or storage room for a storage project on that northern downstream end of the dam. But on the southern upstream end, there is likely little to no room for storage pressurized. The next slide will be a cross section. While we're on this, I just want to point out, you can see this red line that we have running along the eastern boundary. That's going to be the topographic line that you're going to see displayed on the next slide. It runs just along the bench, kind of the plateau to the east of Willow Creek. So next slide, please. So this is a geologic cross section that we put together just to kind of further demonstrate some of our findings here and look at some target areas. Go over some of the items here. As I said, that surface topography line, the uppermost black line, that surface topography that runs just to the east of Willow Creek up on the plateau or bench. There's a dotted blue line a little bit below it that roughly parallels. That is the Willow Creek Valley floor. We put that there to just kind of show what Willow Creek incisors into. Each stick that you're seeing here is a well, and the hatched area on those sticks is the open area of the well. That is where it is open to and it is drawing water from. On this, your reds, your blues, and your purples are major Columbia River basalt formations with shading in between them being minor, kind of more minor subgroups of those. And your brown, yellow, and orange units displayed are sedimentary interbedded units, generally poor storage, but they are important to show here. As you can see, so I'll start on the right is the southern end, on the left is the northern end. All of these units roughly follow topography in the area and tilt or dip toward the north, toward the Columbia River. And this results in groundwater, much like surface water, flowing by gravity. It flows from the south or the right end of the map to the north or left end of the map towards the Columbia River. And you can see kind of in the middle of the screen, it's a little small, but the Willow Creek monocline is a vertical line. Yep, all right, that's it right there. That is another view of this groundwater dam. You can see to the right up near the top, we've labeled where flowing artesian conditions exist. And to the left, we've labeled where there's those strong declining water levels that I was discussing here as well. Go to the next slide, please. So same slide, but we added this kind of yellow highlight polygon. In our review of well logs in the area and water level changes that occurred during drilling, we think that this yellow polygon would be the most ideal target storage zone if a project here were pursued. That would sort of be our target. This is also informed by some prior drilling experience, the prior work that GSI has done for 3 Mile Canyon Farms up on the bench to the east there as well. So we do have some experience in the area. Kind of downstream or kind of to the left in those same geologic units, there may be good storage, but as you can see, there aren't any wells that get down there. It's all inferred. We just don't have the information at the moment to extend this kind of target area any farther towards the river to the left. And I'll also point out, you can kind of see where the Morrow-Gillum County line is here based on the well IDs. As you move from right to left, immediately to the left of that yellow polygon, they go from Moore XYZ number to Gill XYZ number, indicates the county. So that can kind of tell you where the county line is on this cross section as well. So takeaway here, little room for storage upstream to the right of the Willow Creek monocline. It looks like quite a bit of room for storage downstream to the left of the monocline. So next slide, please. I want to talk about water quality and availability findings. So the most difficult technical challenge with an MAR system is treatment of that diverted surface water. Generally, any surface water that you divert for injection needs to be treated first. And before it goes into the ground, it needs to be either of similar quality to the native groundwater that you are injecting into, or it needs to be treated to drinking water standards. That depends on the regulatory pathway that you pursue for permitting a system like this. There is limited water quality data available from Willow Creek and the Columbia River basalts. Not a lot, but a little bit. And the data that is available indicates, frankly, expected minor treatment needs for Willow Creek. This includes things like bacteria, total dissolved solids, sediments, nitrates, things like that. Importantly, in the data that's available, there were no pesticides or herbicides detected in Willow Creek, which is a big deal for a project like this. However, there were pretty significant holes or gaps in the data that is available, and we would need to collect more water quality information in order to make further feasibility determinations. Looking at water availability, it was kind of difficult to assess true water availability from Willow Creek. The closest stream gauge to our study area is all the way up in Heppner. There's not one that is close enough to our study area that we can confidently use it to assess water availability from Willow Creek. What we did was we used an OWRD model that they use from a water right perspective to determine theoretically how much water is available from a creek. That uses things like drainage size, climatic factors, elevation, things like that to estimate water availability. However, observations that we made as well as conversations with landowners in the area indicate that those model availability results most likely do not match actual on the ground conditions. So another kind of data gap that we would need to address would be construction of stream gauges to get a better idea of how much water is actually available in Willow Creek to withdraw and inject. For what it's worth, that OWRD model does show that water is available from about November or December to May or June, depending on the regulatory pathway that you pursue. Again, take that with a grain of salt. Next slide, please. I want to quickly talk about potential sites for a location as well as governance. In various meetings that we had, we were able to identify 6 landowners who were willing to have further discussions about allowing use of their land for investigations or construction of facilities or even donation of irrigation infrastructure that they might not be using otherwise. Want to be clear, they're just willing to continue having the conversation. This is no hard and fast commitment. Most of these were in Morrow County, quite close to the Morrow and Gillum County line and downstream of the Willow Creek monocline. We had 1 or 2 that were interested within Gillum County as well. One thing I do want to point out, in our prior work in MAR systems, we found that determining ownership and governance of a system like this, so who is responsible for operation, maintenance, allocation of water from such a system, your O&M moving forward after construction, can actually be a little difficult. So I want to just take the time to point that out here. That is a little bit of a challenge, standing up some kind of an entity that's public, private, irrigation district, just someone to manage this long-term is something we would have to look at in further work. Next slide, please. So I'm going to go over a brief summary of what we found as well as the project concept we developed. This was a fatal flaws analysis. The bottom line is that we did not find any fatal flaws during this desktop feasibility study that would just immediately prevent further investigation and development of a system or of an MAR system to help make surface water users a little bit more whole, extend their irrigation season in Willow Creek. However, there is more information that does need to be collected before we can make a final feasibility determination. That will be on the ground data collection efforts. In conversations with landowners and the SWCDs, we determined that a project focused on the area downstream of the Willow Creek monocline, that groundwater dam, would probably be the best balance of cost, practicality, and value for irrigators. That's where most of our respondents and people that were interested are. It's where they own land. It's where we believe there is the most storage room for water, so it'd be most practical there. And additionally, that is where the most surface water rights by volume, it's well north of 50%, that are impacted are located downstream of that Willow Creek monocline as well. So that's the most high value location that we'd be looking at for further development of a project. Just a very rough project concept we came up with landowners. Looking at 2 or more in a full build out if that were pursued, diversion, injection, treatment, recovery sites. Talked about treating water using engineered filtration media, something that looks like irrigation filters is what we have in mind, as opposed to things like an infiltration basin or a stream bank filtration system. We discussed piping recovered water to irrigators. Alternatives were construction of canals or just putting water back into Willow Creek. We'd be worried about transmission losses there, losing water to the ground or evaporation and not having that water actually make it to irrigators. We also talked about starting this with just single demonstration site. This were pursued kind of to show feasibility and practicality. Next slide, please. Want to go over quickly a project roadmap. If this project were pursued to completion, this is roughly what that might look like. What we've just completed is the phase 1 feasibility study, that desktop feasibility study. We're currently in between phase 1 and phase 2 on this roadmap. Phase 2, that on-the-ground data collection culminating in a preliminary system design would be next. If there was more interest, we'd move on to things like determining administration and ownership of a system, permitting to allow construction of this with the state, final design and system construction, followed by some kind of pilot and shakedown testing before moving into operations, maintenance, potential system expansion. That's sort of the cruising altitude part of this project if it were pursued. Next slide, please. I want to quickly talk about kind of data that would need to be collected further in summary. We would need to construct 1 to 2 stream gauges to get a more accurate account of flow and water availability on Willow Creek. We need to collect more water samples from Willow Creek as well as the Columbia River basalt aquifer. We need to do some testing of water treatment effectiveness with water pulled from Willow Creek. Just really demonstrate to the state that, hey, we can treat this water to the level that it needs to be treated to. We'd also need to do some brief geochemical analysis to assess potential for aquifer clogging. As I said, nearly all underground storage projects in Oregon are in the Columbia River basalts. This aquifer clogging thing is usually not a problem, but it is something that we need to do. We need to look at per state regulations. That's why this is on here. We need to conduct a pumping test on an existing well and monitor water levels. That would help us do some analysis to verify the storage capacity of the aquifer and actually put some hard numbers on it instead of, yeah, it looks good. And all of this would culminate in a preliminary system design would be the ultimate goal of this next phase. Work with some engineers to develop designs and really get a good handle on what would a true target capacity and an idea of implementation costs be if this were to be pursued further. Next slide, please. So this is the final slide that I have for you. It's a quick discussion of what funding looks like if there were more interest here. This desktop study was funded with an OWRD feasibility study grant. We believe that that is the best public funding source for the phase 2 work, the data collection work as well, if there were interest. The timeline for pursuing an OWRD grant, I plugged a scenario in here, but very generally applications are due in the spring of most years. Awards are announced in kind of late summer, early fall most years, and funds are released. Work can begin in the winter, that following winter of most years. So you're looking at about a year turnaround time from application, work on the application to doing the work if that grant is awarded. Again, this requires a 50% match from the receiving entity. It can come in any form or fashion. They just need 50% of the money to be fronted by the receiving entity. A very rough cost estimate that we developed for this phase 2 of data collection would be $250,000 to $350,000 over 1 to 2 years. That range, sorry, was there a question?
No.
All right, I'll move on. Said we're almost done. That range of cost depends on the scope of the data collection efforts as well as engineering design costs. That's why we put quite a large bracket on there. We'd have to engage the services of an engineer to come up with these design costs. So what that leads to is the estimated match funding needs would be about 125,000 to 175,000 total. I put Morrow and Gillum counties in here just as a plug-in. That's just because y'all provided the funding for the previous phase of work. It can come from any entity that is interested in funding this. Public, private, doesn't really matter. And that the next slide is just a questions slide. That's what we have. Open it up to any questions from folks.
Can you define the acre feet? When they say 1,129 acre feet?
Yeah, so that's a volume of water. That's 1 acre foot as if you were to flood 1 acre of water up to 1 foot of water. It's a way of measuring volume. Another way to think about that is that translates to about 370 million gallons. Is that what you were asking?
Yes, that's what I was asking. Thanks.
Matt, I have one question. So if you had a landowner that was willing to try to recharge or inject, how do you inject this in there? Through their wells? Another pumping station or how?
Yeah, so what that looks like is, it can be, if there's an existing well that a landowner is willing to donate, or if they have one that they just don't use, you can retrofit that well, or you can drill a new well. And it's specialized equipment. Yeah, you inject water under pressure instead of pump. This equipment is 2 ways though. So you can inject water in, and that same system can be used to pump water out. And there's sort of some specialized flow control valves that, incidentally, the world leading one is designed by a guy over in Umatilla County that are used. He's kind of the industry standard. So have that local connection, but that's the kind of equipment that's used for injection and recovery.
So you do wind up with a little bit of extra infrastructure around the wellhead, so you have a line that's coming in and a line that's going out. With some check valves.
I think one thing, that we're seeing across the world and is the groundwater declines. And if we're talking about irrigated cropland in Gillum County, this is something we should keep our eye on. The groundwater declines. What has like our SWCD excited is that this study says that there are no fatal flaws in Willow Creek. And then so that is like, well, maybe could we look into this in Rock Creek as well? Just because we, with the increasing drought and things like that, we really need to keep an eye on these groundwater declines, and to see that something like this, at least in this phase 1, it seems like that is something that could work. And with having something working in Umatilla County already, it's proven, proof of concept. So that's why we're just hoping to give you folks some info on what this study was all about.
Yeah.
So.
I think that the first conversations I heard about it, they were actually looking at filling those aquifers with river from the, or water from the Columbia River.
Yeah.
So do you know the percentage on of the original study cost that Gillum County contributed as opposed to what percentage did Gillum County pay the 11,000 of the total cost of that first phase of the study?
If I remember right, I think we did it based off of acreage.
Acreage, okay.
Yeah, so we
Okay.
did like X amount of irrigated acres in
Okay.
Gillum versus Morrow. That's
Okay.
how we made that
I see.
breakdown.
Thank you. Is there anything else?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much
Thanks,
for the
Matt.
presentation.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, everyone. we have a full report for this we can distribute for folks, as well as information sheets as well.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we are to 4.9. This is a letter received from Jeff Steves regarding the consideration of a missed deadline on the homestead rebate. This has happened. There's a process. And that process is through the county court. This is just the letter. There's no action on the agenda today. You know, he gives his reason in the letter. I did ask the assessor's office for anyone else who missed the deadline. And when we do act on this, just one thing to consider is if we grant to one, we need to look at everyone else. And that could be problematic for down the road. There was someone who missed it by 1 day. And has not asked for an appeal. So if we want to think about it, do our own research, check with the assessor's office on this.
So the assessor's office always been, yeah, they've always made the decision.
Yeah, they just stamp it when they receive it, and that's their decision. Then there's an appeal process. If someone wants to appeal, why didn't they? It comes to us. And it just comes to us in the form of a letter. The letter came. We can put this on the next agenda for a decision. Just didn't have a decision on this because it didn't come till the 3rd of November. Any discussion on it?
Has there ever been appeals before?
We'd have to check with the assessor's office and ask.
Some of the conversations I have with them, it's been brought up and questioned.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, we have a process.
Mm-hmm.
It's unfortunate.
And this one was late, I think, October.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, 2 or 3 months.
Mhm. Okay, so that was correspondence. We'll deal with that next meeting. Consent agenda, 5.0, consider approval of regular meeting minutes from October 15th and consider approval of agreement for Oregon Health Authority. Any comments on the consent agenda? I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, no unfinished business, new business. 7.1, the court order, which in my way of thinking, we cease this process based on what happened. Is there any other discussion? Yeah. Mhm. Would you like to come? Yeah.
Yes, sorry if this is out of sequence, just the order, introducing the letter and all like that, but
Yeah.
I think it's good to hear the intent to cease the proceedings. And I think just to button up correct process, the resolution was adopted by motion and a vote of the court. I think you termed it a termination. I think whatever terminology, but to rescind that resolution should probably be a vote of the court as well. And that would give some finality and closure to that process. Otherwise, you have to bring it to your next meeting in December. I think you can just finish it today with the motion of the court and, contingent on documents by legal review or whatever to properly terminate that action. That's what I would request.
Thank you. I think what we could do, and I'll let everybody speak, but we could just, make a motion to cease the process as per the, email from the Secretary of State's office. And then follow up with an actual legal document that legal counsel draws up. Because I think it's really important, because we have the resolution, we need to have another document for history to show what actually happened. So that would just show today we are ceasing the process.
We would still have to do an actual formal,
A resolution or an
resolution
order
to
to terminate.
determine.
Yeah, that's what I think. We need to check with Jeremy to be sure. That there's no harm in doing a motion today, because that's what we're doing. And that would give you the closure. Have any thoughts, Commissioner Watkins?
So we would be making a motion to terminate, but then.
To cease the proceedings. Okay, because of what the Secretary of State told us. And our legal counsel.
So we actually haven't started any
No, but
proceedings, have we?
we initiated
Other
the
than-
process through the resolution. So we have this initiated process, it isn't closed.
Sorry. One way you could do it, because I see Jed's point of having a resolution still hanging out there. That's, you can actually repeal the resolution with a vote and say, I repeal resolution 25.
Yeah. I want to check with our legal counsel first before we did that.
Because otherwise, that resolution's hanging out there for nothing.
Well, it's not everything is
We need to
Counsel.
check with legal counsel.
recommended, we do the resolution, so, I mean, yeah, we want to get this cleaned up, cleared up as soon as
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
But just want to make sure we're going
Right.
forward correctly, so.
And thank you for getting the audit complete. It's a lot of work, sure, look like. And will you get the next one done by December 31st, as the Secretary of State said?
She also noted our plan to have it completed by end of January. And, you know, she recognized as well that that would potentially trigger a new process.
Yeah.
But
We
I
don't wanna
think
do
a good faith effort is, you know, we've pledged to have it done by end of January. Hopefully you can pause that. And, you know, we did what we said we were gonna do with the October deadline, and this time of year, auditors have a lot of due dates in the end of December, and so we had to, you know, push pretty hard to get them to meet this October deadline and push pretty hard to make that end of January deadline. So just being honest with that, that's probably the timing of when we'll be able to complete that next audit.
So, yeah, I don't know if we should. I guess my thing is like a little leery of trying to make a motion or do something. I mean, I think it's consensus that we're getting cease procedures going forward, going forward, because it is getting corrected. And then go through to take care of the resolution that was adopted. Yeah. I mean, you're getting it taken care of, it's acknowledged, and just gotta make sure that we're following the correct steps.
Yeah, all this is on the record, and so.
Yeah.
You know, if that's a
It's gonna be taken
consensus
care
of the board or whatever, and the minutes reflect that they're ceasing proceedings, maybe that gives us a certain sense of closure.
I'm okay with that. That's just me.
I'm more comfortable with the motion to cease proceedings.
I
And
move
reference
to
that.
terminate the resolution proceedings to be followed by a resolution to dissolve the order 2025-01. It's
Just-
only. Okay, no.
Can I comment on that if
Sure.
you don't mind? It sounded real good until the
It's gonna die
order.
for lack of a
Until
second,
I-
we're gonna start over.
I mean, the order, it was on the packet, but it hasn't even been
No, right,
acted
that's
on yet.
what. mhm.
Everything else sounded
Well,
good up
the-
until then.
Resolution, or like the resolution, whatever that number was.
How about I'll just chop that off, say, I'm good to terminate the official dissolution proceedings of the Port of Arlington.
I second the motion. Get any discussion?
Read all that, Brooke?
You don't have to vote for it. You don't have to say anything.
No, I just worried about. Yeah, I mean. I'm not comfortable.
Well,
Okay.
and was it,
I will-
the letter from the Secretary of State said,
Let me go back to that. So, yeah, we have a motion and a second, now we're in discussion. So when I spoke with Jeremy, and he was gonna be on the phone today, and when the audit was finished and we were, no, he basically said, you know, I recommend you cease proceedings based on what the Secretary of State said. And if we don't know what the future holds, that would be an entirely different proceeding. Hopefully not. But for this particular situation, let's read again what the Secretary of State said. And he concurred with what she said.
Okay.
Please note the Port of Arlington has filed the audit report for fiscal year 22 as per their planned schedule and is no longer 3 years delinquent, which triggers the dissolution process. The audit report for the year 25 is due by December 31st, 25. If the port does not submit the audit report for fiscal year 23 prior to that date, the port will again be 3 years delinquent and may be again subject to dissolution proceedings. When I read that, that would be a new process. If my records indicate the port's plan is to file their 23 by January 31st, 26. So
we are just terminating the dissolution
proceedings in this particular case. When,
So if he's okay with that, then that was my concern.
yeah, so Jeremy
But I'm okay
said,
with it.
when I talked to him on the phone,
Yeah.
I contacted him and he confirmed that the Port of Arlington, since the Port of Arlington is not 3 years delinquent at this point, dissolution proceedings may be ceased. I'll tell you his exact words. He said, I wouldn't recommend it, continuing on. Because and I also think it's because we haven't started the hearing process. Once you get into the hearing process, my understanding through him is that triggers then you need to get all three of them done. I think it's time.
So then we're okay to terminate the resolution.
or terminate the
Terminate the
proceedings.
Procedure.
proceedings.
Proceedings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
I'm good with that.
Okay, all right. Yes, let's confirm the motion. Okay. Any further discussion before we take a vote? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, and we'll follow up. The next meeting will have a document vetted by legal counsel for formal.
And Jen, you said that audit is gonna try to post it on your web page, maybe the end of the week or something.
It's
Yeah,
already on
I
the
just-
Secretary of State's website.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
All right, we have two other housekeeping items. Consider approval of resolution 2025-14 and 2025-15. Let's take these as two separate motions, excuse me. So the first one is going to be declaration of a county fleet vehicle as surplus, R 2025-14, and that's item 7.2.
I'll move to adopt resolution number R 2025-14, declaring the county vehicle as surplus equipment as presented.
I will second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Consider approval of resolution R 2025-15, declaring a county police vehicle as surplus. That is item 7.3.
I'll move to approve resolution R 2025-15, declaring the county vehicle as surplus as presented.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to, is there any discussion? Nope. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, 7.4, consider approval of City of Clonis Economic Enhancement Grant Submission. Did you want to come up?
That's a lot to digest, the water. Okay. So, as you can see, the mayor submitted a letter for the $200,000 economic development. And, what we wanted to just make sure is that the city of Condon is a proven economic development partner driver with our Main Street project, our Ballfield housing, our Fairway housing, our partnership with Gillon County and broadband. Plus, we also, I don't know if anyone realized it, we now have a city operated Wi-Fi network, free Main Street Wi-Fi network downtown. Without the infrastructure of streets, sidewalks, internet, electricity, we can't do economic development. These sidewalks that are in here, phase 1 and phase 2, are in our transportation system plan, which is almost outdated. It's the 2015 Gillon County Transportation System Plan. It's also in our Condon CAN. It's also in our goals and priorities to do sidewalks, not particularly in the transportation system plan. It is specific to these sidewalks. So the one thing I did is the council talked about it over several different meetings of how they wanted to do this. And they landed on sidewalks. So in these two specific places. So you should have a map in there also too. One thing I didn't add into this part for the mayor, but I added into the capital investment project was phase 2, was the transportation system plan. So this part of the sidewalk is going to actually connect from the bus barn where Mid-Columbia, now the school district owns it, down to the drive-in, which has been an issue for decades. We have tried to go out for money for this part of the sidewalk. Unfortunately, with ODOT Small City Allotment Grant, you cannot do any sidewalk or street repair along the highway, which doesn't make any sense. And a lot of the sidewalks that were done in the past in that area were ODOT, and they were done about in 2000, anywhere from 2006, I think, 2006 to 2010. We had sidewalks, but that's when ODOT had more money and they were a little more generous with doing some of these projects. And when they did those, just to keep in mind, what they did was they did a linking project that linked the high school to the then grade school along East Street. They also did sidewalks along going where out down towards the store. And we've also got small city allotment grants to do the sidewalk going up by Jameson and Marshall over towards the school, but those are all off the highway. This is not. So we're requesting that $200,000 economic development be used for the sidewalks as economic development infrastructure. And then just so you know, we have housing projects going on and we are working with the Business Oregon to try and get some grants for that, but we will be coming in for, I'm guessing, some money on that at some point. I'm hoping that once we get to the housing, we can also pair with Pioneer CDC and get something a little different made on that. But at this point, we're gonna just try and get the sidewalks done. Does anyone have any questions on this project?
No, but it's like they did the nice little sidewalks down through the park and they have a pretty good going across the drive-in, and then from there on, it's, and you see kids walking in the road and stuff after school.
Yeah, phase 2 is going to be hard and more expensive. In the economic development, the capital investment grant, what I submitted to that last week, what you're going to see is that grant. We have a property owner. We had it in a plan to do that part of the sidewalk, probably in 2006 or 7, due to the disagreeable property owner, which the property owners have changed, we had to pull that from the project. And no sooner did we pull it from the project, those property owners came and they had an elderly mother living with them, and they asked us to put a sidewalk there because they needed a place for their mother to walk. So it's going to be, phase 2 is going to be hard. Phase 1 is not going to be hard. Should not be hard. And the reason we also put in for phase 1 is it met the dollar amount. And also 2 is, according to the letter that you sent out, Chris, it had to be done by June 30th of 26. And we think we could easily meet that deadline.
Okay. I think this is a great project, and I think it's something we needed for some time. And I think it does, you know, if there were any question about whether or not this falls within economic development, I think it does, because when you have events at the park, it gets people safely there. This is a thoroughfare to pay the bills, and people travel, and many people stop at the park and use that whole area. Swimming pool as it's currently is there, and tennis courts, and so I do think it has to do, and tourism and that end of it as well. So I think it definitely does tie into economic development, which I think is an important thing to link to every project if we're going to use those dollars. So
Definitely. And in your comment about the park thing too, is none of those are ADA because they're too steep. These will be ADA approved or accessible ramps due to the not having such a huge elevation change.
Yeah. This is right there, this provides access to as well.
Yes, I know.
For a motion?
I move to approve the City of Condon's Economic Enhancement Grant submission as presented.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Right.
Thank you.
And grant agreement. We'll get your grant agreement.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Just a brief thing, since you mentioned the swimming pool, is on our city council packets today, which is huge because our audit is on there. But there are some designs that Leah saw with the last pool meeting that are fairly exciting in my thing. So if you have a chance, or if you want me to send them to you,
Is it more than just a pool? Is it just?
it's going to be, and actually you'll be surprised where they finally decided to put it. They're going to put it up by the Little League fields is the tentative spot where they're going to put it, thinking that this will be a future recreational area with that, possibly pickleball courts, outdoor sport courts, and they're close to the golf course. It's a zero entry pool. And it goes down far enough that they can have lessons in the zero entry pool, and then they have a 6-lane lap pool, which will have a diving board, a small slide. I mean, a small slide, basketball hoops, and a climbing wall, depending on cost on some of these. But what they're trying to do is get family-oriented activities, so people will come to the pool. Also, of course, a bathhouse. They also think that due to where it's located, due to solar and possibly putting some small turbines, it could be a zero net facility.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So the other thing that they brought up during the meetings too was, having the ability to open those bathrooms to, like, when the league games are being played and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
They'll have the ability to close off the pool part.
Good.
And have the bathrooms be able to be used for the public.
Yeah, dual use. Also a place for food carts, maybe EV charging stations at some point, you know. We'll see what the money part is coming.
We don't know the money.
No, they're finishing up the project, so I asked them to get the whole project done by the end of the year. So we'll have those tentative figures next month. And then, but we asked for the grant to go because I thought we'd probably get the final invoices in January. So we should have the final report that we'll give to the county court, and Leah can pass on anything also too, as I sent out something, which I've heard no more other comments on that.
So the last meeting, I thought it was interesting when they actually took what the design of the pool was and they put them on the 3 different sites that we had. The current site it's on, the grade school behind the play shed, and then up above. And I think when they set it on top of where the current pool was, I think that was for the ones that were still like trying to hold on to that old site. It was kind of like,
we had a lot trying to, and not just people on our committee, but other people wondering why we wanted to move it. And one of them too, to Leah's point, is that they don't even think they could permit it there. Even if the school gave the whole tennis court and everything else due to the elevations, they wouldn't be able to permit it. So.
well, and then I think they said to build it on that site, they would, by the time they got everything ADA accessible and stuff, you could have a pool the size of a kiddie pool.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, I will
Okay.
pass on that information.
Okay.
And Leah has it, but I will pass the other on to you too. It's kind of exciting.
Yes, that is
So,
exciting.
Yeah, thank you.
Good. Okay, all right, the last item we have on the agenda just for discussion is Oregon Trail Solar LLC battery storage system community benefit agreement. This is exciting. This is, Oregon Trail Solar, on-grid, on the solar side, came to us, because of that pilot agreement for the Oregon Trail Solar and the optional battery storage. Or what can we do to make up the difference of the amount that was negotiated and really not decided on the optional battery storage? So it's been verbally agreed between Avangrid, their legal counsel, their tax person, assessor was in the meeting, myself, Kim Nichols from Avangrid, to offer or gift to each child care $55,000 a year each for the life of the pilot agreement, which is 15 years with an optional 5-year extension. So it could be up to 20 years. So this is for operations. And the reason that I suggested this to them, and I'm really glad that they support this, is this creates a public-private partnership and encourages a business to invest in childcare so that the government doesn't have to do it all. So that will lessen the amount that we would have to provide in operations each year that they come to us because of that. So we're just waiting for a document.
We can plan on it for the next
Right.
15 to 20 years.
Right. So, and you could say, well, you could have built in an increase, but this is a very generous gift. And this is an amount of money that they can depend on. As long as it goes. So probably they normally extend, I think the trend will be that these 15-year pilot agreements, they will take that other 5-year exemption. So then it would go another 5 years. So it's a payment in lieu of tax agreement that's negotiated specifically for solar projects that it's $7,000 a megawatt or $7,500 is the amount. But this particular agreement, there was a lesser amount negotiated so that community benefit agreements could be offered to the SWCD and the Port of Arlington for housing. So this is just the battery storage site of the same type of arrangement.
Is it near the other project then?
Yeah.
The second project they started on?
Yeah. Right. And this would happen, it would start, I'm gonna watch the agreement and make sure it says that it would start when ground is broken. So that we're not waiting for the project to be complete before the dollars start coming in.
So they annually will just.
Yes, annually provide a payment to each childcare as long as they're nonprofits, and then we have to have a protection built in since it's such a long period of time. If something happens to one of them, then we have another means to benefit childcare.
So it's not gonna come to the county for us to disperse.
No, it won't come to us. We will be a party to the agreement so that we can reallocate if something goes wrong, but it goes directly from Avangrid to the two childcares.
I think that's how that other one, it was gonna go directly to the port and to SWC.
It did, and they received it.
And they
by the way.
received it.
Yeah, okay, so that's good, exciting. I hope it, until it's all signed on the dotted line, you never know, but it's looking promising right now, so. Okay, now the last thing you wanted to discuss was the Kelly nonprofit.
Yeah, so I think you had maybe talked back and forth with them about the Times Journal. So the Times Journal is in the process of becoming a nonprofit. And I was just wondering how much we, because they're asking for guidance on how much that. And since are they technically a nonprofit now, or they gotta wait through their 501c3, and so,
Are you asking that?
yeah, oh, is that?
He's online. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Stephen.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, hey. Yeah, thank you. I wasn't prepared to talk today, so I'll do my best. Yeah, we've been working on this for almost 2 years now. Kind of planning and putting things in place. We did establish a nonprofit with an EIN. But all of that is really what we're needing support from Kelly Nonprofit, is kind of getting this established. Especially I think with the financial and legal aspect of this. So there's, asset allocations. There's a lot to kind of consider. And as I was kind of doing my homework, it got pretty daunting. But I think that's pretty much the narrowed scope of it. The rest of it I feel pretty good about. I did want to assure everyone that the newspaper isn't in trouble. This isn't a kind of act of desperation. This is something that we see as it's really the future, I feel, for small newsrooms. And I think it will improve the product and make it more of a community asset to enhance the public benefit.
So you're looking for help from them to guide you through the process of becoming a nonprofit? Is that what I'm getting?
Yeah, so like especially when it comes to transitioning from the for-profit model to the nonprofit, there's very specific things that we have to do. There's language that we have to incorporate in our, initial meetings with our board. We're turning ownership over from myself to to an organization. So it would be taking ownership, and putting it into the nonprofit entity. So yeah, there's some really kind of tricky things I think to kind of work through, and things that could really go wrong along the way if we don't have very kind of good guidance. And having worked with them, I do have a lot of trust in their services.
Because I think basically kind of the question was if they weren't technically a nonprofit yet. Yeah. So.
We do have that EIN number, and we do have an entity established as a tax exempt entity. And we have a board put together. We just don't have those initial, the steps that we need to take exactly in terms of that transition and exactly how to do that. And that's really what we're going to be engaging them with. So we do have the nonprofit established.
Well, it seems
And I
that the process of going through and getting this 501c3, which I've been through before, can be quite daunting with the federal government. So.
Yeah, we've already been down that road. Like I say, we've got an EIN for the nonprofit. We have our tax exempt status kind of recognized.
You have the status.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
We haven't initiated anything beyond that. We haven't formalized anything beyond that.
Okay. Yeah, Kelly just told us that it wasn't complete yet. So you're saying you have the status?
Yeah, I could provide you with the information.
Can you get that over to Brooke?
Yeah.
So, yeah, because if you are, that would make you no different than anyone else who's a nonprofit. That was the only question. Yeah, so when we receive that, then there's no question problem with them helping you, right?
I don't think we've come close to spending the money that we thought we'd have to spend.
We have. My only thought was if we did this, and there probably won't be anyone else out there that is doing this, then we would have to do the same thing for others, is what I was thinking, if the status weren't secured at this time, as Kelly said.
Yeah,
So,
it's not an
sounds
easy
like-
process, so it's not something you wanna just go out there and jump into and start.
No, so, okay, so we will get those documents and then just verify, and then we can just proceed on, correct?
Yeah, so I'll get back with, I think it was Libby Carter that got a hold of me and let her know that she's good to go to help you.
Did you have anything to add to that? Okay,
Thank you so much.
yes, thank you. Next meeting, want to clarify, there's no meeting November 19th. We're only having one meeting in November because of, AOC, Association of Oregon Counties Annual Conferences. Okay. What does everybody have going on?
I wrote it down.
Okay.
I have been, like Catherine said, I've been going to the pool meetings and they do have the design and I can share that with the court. Send it on to you. Our public health fiscal review keeps continually going on the triennial review, and we had on 22nd, we had a meeting with, there was Dave, Lisa, myself, and then Brooke was on Zoom. And so I think Brooke has a good understanding of what Tony's asking for, so I would like to see if Dave can update us on the public health, maybe the first meeting in December if we have time, so.
Okay. Are you gonna ask for that, or should we?
I can ask
Okay,
her.
that'd be good.
If we can get it on the agenda, I'll ask. I'll make sure she's. So, and then on the 24th, I had a CAPCO meeting, which I was asked about a report from CAPCO, and I went on their line. I knew when the meeting, they said with the federal funding that they weren't sure how things were gonna be going. And I went online and it said they are not accepting new online energy applications at this time. But I also was gonna visit with Sabrina to see if she can help people with going online and doing that. I tried to stop in, but she wasn't in her office, so I'll do that later on, but I can let everybody know when they do start. So maybe when the federal government opens back up, whenever that is. Yeah, because right now they're just like, we don't know what's gonna happen, so they're just shutting everything down. So that's pretty much it.
Roadmaster, we'll be back next week.
I saw it today.
Oh, he was- He's not supposed to be here. I spoke with Dewey a little bit about Alan Anderson from yes, Phil. They're getting close, sounds like, on their pipeline RNG process, and Dewey's gonna reach out to him when he gets back and share a little bit of information with him. They're just trying to make sure that with the proposed bypass, no surprises. They're just everybody's on the same page. Still nothing back on the wetland mitigation on that. But so that's still a working process. Gonna meet with the developer this Friday. Not sure about the Korea or Nordcore with Association of Counties. So I think, yeah. I'm not sure. I have not saw anything for reschedule. So.
I know one year, I think I had to get on the phone and because they had the meeting during, they had a virtual.
Korea, they're gonna have dinner on the 17th. Yeah, I know.
The 17th, what day is that?
Monday.
That's Monday.
It's Monday,
Oh, it's the
first
same
day.
time we have our government.
So Yeah, I'm not sure where they're at on those, but I'll stay on top of it. Yeah,
So I went on I didn't actually go on the waste management tour, but we met at the Grumquist building on the 17th. And it was the city of Seattle and King County. It was really, really interesting. I didn't go on the tour because somebody got lost. Their GPS sent them the wrong way. So I stayed at the Grumquist building so I could send them to meet the tour. But I've gone on a tour before. And that was really, really a good way to learn about their part of waste management and how they see solid waste, and for them to actually see where it goes and how it works out here. We've shown the grain lab to Northwest Railroad and they really, really liked it. But the problem is it's too far away from them. They're not gonna take it. So we need to start marketing that. We did the legislative tour of SWCD, which was really good on the virtual fencing. I periodically have meetings with the school. I've met with Michelle here on the 21st just to touch base. Good meeting. Working with legal counsel on the host fee agreement. Waste management and I am trying to make sure you see the documents through staff, where we're at with the host fee agreement. So we're proposing a 5% increase, continuing with the CPI each year, which is a good, whoever did that might have been Dennis Grumquist. That's good because it gives us a potential increase each year.
We get 75% of that or something.
Yeah. And then they asked for clarification on the type of waste, that waste that they don't accept is excluded, but we protect the waste in the spirit of the agreement for the local land farmer, small contractor. So we created language that, this is draft language that says waste originating within Gillum County brought to Columbia RIS for residents, farmers, small commercial contractors that are generated by small contractors and demolition projects and land clearing waste. So that's in there, because their problem is some of these large industries, which weren't here when this agreement was put in place, can dump their parts and industrial waste basically for free. So they needed protection from that because for components take up a lot of space. And that was really never I don't believe the spirit of this agreement. It was supposed to be food dumping for small businesses, farmers, the local residences. Do you support that? Yeah, okay. Decent language on that to do what we need to do. I know we did. But it excludes waste they cannot accept. The other thing is tires. They cannot accept tires. So that will be, their proposal is to exclude tires. We'll need to work on that one because I think there's the tires in there, just not a truckload of tires.
Right, sure, I can see.
Yes. So, yes. So, and then, so it would, the 5% would go up to $2.82 a ton and 67 cents for other waste. So that'll amount to about $250,000 a year more around at our current volume. And then the gas plant is a completely, in my understanding, is a completely different subsidiary to Waste Management from Waste Management Disposal Services, or it's a energy subsidiary, so wouldn't belong here. But we're talking with Waste Management. I've been discussing it with them. Okay, estimates on property taxes, if that's what the plant ends up paying, because they may qualify for a SIP agreement too. That's all up in the air right now. So that could be a potential other agreement on the gas plant for us to consider, but it would be separate from this. Yeah. So, do you have any?
Well, are they supposed to be up and running by January? Is that just be completed?
We should have asked Paul questions when he was here about when.
That's what I was told too.
Yeah. It keeps all of the spirit of the agreement. It moved things out of this agreement that belonged in the conditional use, because there were things in here that didn't belong in this agreement. So we took care of that. Made sure and kept the litter patrol, the garbage is tarped, I think is in here too, maybe in both places. And
Is that just when it's coming in, like the train or truck, the garbage truck thing?
The road use agreement is essentially the same because they're gonna be responsible for the new road, or I should say responsible. We're relocating the existing road, so it's not gonna change this agreement with the road. But they're responsible for 80% of the maintenance. Yes. So it's not a lot of change, but it's fixing a lot of things that need to be corrected. 10 years is a long time. So where we are with this now, same thing with Kim Waste. Kim Waste's agreement expires at the same time. So there will be a 5% increase on that one as well as a proposal. And it's a much smaller amount. So this has gone to legal counsel. Legal counsel and Waste Management are talking now. The hope is that this will be done by the 17th meeting. Worst case scenario, in the past, I found documentation where they extended this agreement if something were to go wrong, to not get it done by the 31st, just pending negotiations. So the last time that happened, but I think we'll be okay. And it's good to have the conditional use done, I think. So, it'll be good to get this finished.
Get that off the plate.
When I met with Representative Greg Smith, Lynn Morley, Judge Dabolskis, and I, Greg Smith put the meeting together to address housing in frontier counties. He wants to get money for each of us for housing, which would be really great. But he put us in touch with Drea Bell, who's Executive Director of Oregon Housing and Community Services. We met Lucas and her staff was there. And I think we need to have a meeting, and they offered to help participate in getting ideas off the ground with Pioneer CDC, the port, us, the cities, and then she's the Legislative and Government Relations Coordinator, Tanisha Rosos, from her office, from the housing office, and she would come to the meeting and help us and address funding, legislative issues, how to get some of these ideas off the ground. And yeah, so that's exciting.
So where is the Amazon thing at? Do you know, down there?
Howard, the last we heard, they asked to meet with us again in December. It was about a 6-month wait, I think, from the last time, because they have to get their power issues with Pacific Power straightened out before they can do anything. So that's where we are with that. Sorry, there's a few more things. There's this. I meet with Carrie Wade once a month for the childcare, and she comes up here and we meet and talk about where things are and how their project's progressing, and that's good. It's really good opportunity to talk and meet. Went to the community roundtable. Thank you, Brooklyn and Caitlin, for putting that together, and that was Monday, and that was well attended. It was just an initial meeting to talk about collaborating ideas and get people at the same table. It was very good. North and South both were there. This is good. Anya's off she had back surgery yesterday. She's off for several weeks. She may work remotely if she feels up to it, but we're kind of in a skeleton crew here. We're having our own government shutdown here in November.
Work can't go.
No. Yeah. Oh, and then the 17th, got Herb asked if I could go to a Sustainable Northwest has put together an informational meeting on virtual fencing to the Oregon House Legislature, Land Use, Natural Resources, and Water Committees in Salem. Isn't that cool? And so we're each gonna get 3 minutes to speak, and that'll be the 17th. So I'm not gonna get to AOC till Tuesday.
I saw that when we went to the tour. I'd seen that the same presentation 3 times, but I did think it was interesting when we went to Lone Rock to hear the producers talk about how it has changed the way they.
That was so great to hear just from the horse's mouth.
Having to use 5 people to ride the
Yes.
cows down to 2 and stuff like that. That was interesting to me.
And also grazing places, cattle don't like certain spots, and it forces them there to actually, fire suppression too.
Yeah.
So it was great.
So I wasn't able to attend in the afternoon, so, but I did think that was interesting when we went to it.
Yeah. And those two did a great job. The Campbell boys did a great job of speaking and explaining and.
Yeah.
So there's a little movement afoot about our community mental health contract. We're meeting tomorrow with AOC to try to work out the legal language so that this contract can be signed, but counties are not signing it as it is. So I'll know more on Friday. And so there's that. I think that's about it.
So does that affect the funding that flows through us and goes to community council?
Right.
Solutions?
Yeah, so the language. There are some issues with the contract. There's been some changes in the contract language, and it's a lot about some of the language is unfunded mandates, and we need to be protected against that. Yeah, we need assurance that the services will be paid for. Otherwise, we pay for the services, and I think that's a lot of it.
Government likes to do that.
Right. Okay. Okay, December 10th is December 10th. Okay, let's go back. We don't have a meeting again until county court on the 3rd. It starts with the budget committee meeting though at 8:30. Then on December 10th, we would like to have a work session to start talking. We worked through the handbook, and it now needs to come through the county court for approval, and it's gonna be a little bit of a parceled up process because it's a big handbook. We need the handbook to be updated and functional, but we also need it so that it works in concert with the union contract, which is gonna come up. 26. So
what time on the 10th?
The 10th? 10 to noon. Yeah. Can you do that? Yeah.
I'll put it on.
Okay.
I had to try county court.
Oh, it's not happening now because I can't get the other county court judges to find a date that'll work. So we're working on that still. Sorry.
For
Yeah.
work session.
Yeah. We'll see how this one goes. I know.
That's a given extra week there in December.
Yes. It's the 17th. Yeah,
So this work session will be here on the 10th, will be at the courthouse.
here, yes. Right. Okay. Meeting's adjourned.